All right, well, I think just to be respectful of folks' time, let's go ahead and get started and we can record. And as folks jump in, we can add them to the conversation if you all are up for that. And so for those of you joining with us, we're so excited you're here and excited to share with you how you can really take Formative from a maybe personal or a department of folks using it and take it really to that next level and share it with your entire school community and maybe even your district community. And so our experts here, Matt and Kirsten, are going to share with you their knowledge on how to take this and bring it to your school. Take it away, folks.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie, for the introduction. I'm making the assumption that everyone watching this video at least has Formative Premium. If you don't have Formative Premium, what in the world are you doing with your life? You need to hit that upgrade button like right now, and we can get that fixed. I am co-hosting our webinar with my lovely wife. She is actually upstairs and I'm down in our sunroom as we record this now. So I will let her go ahead first and introduce herself.
All right, my name is Kirsten Wieland. I'm a 6th grade math teacher in Blythewood, South Carolina. Go Gators, my grad degree is from UF. This is my 6th year teaching, but this is my 2nd year using Formative, and I love all things yoga, reading, and big foodie.
So I'm the husband, and I was a middle school and high school teacher for 7 years. I currently work at Formative in our sales department, helping schools and districts evaluate if Formative is a good fit for them and how we can help them accomplish their goals. And I am not into yoga. Food, yes, reading sometimes, but definitely not into yoga. A couple things to know, this session is being recorded. We're scheduled for 30 minutes. Please type your questions ahead of time in the chat. I will be covering 3 things in our webinar. Why bring Formative to your school or district at all? Secondly, how? And thirdly, a couple minutes at the end for a Q&A if we have it. So first, why bring Formative to your school? Premium is great, obviously, duh, but it costs $144 or $145 out of your pocket. But our partner subscription is even better. So that's why you need to consider bringing it to your entire school, is because the plan is better. It unlocks premium features and partner features for everybody, including professional development, which is huge, a game changer. Why buy a new tool unless you become an expert in it? So invest the time. A couple features that you don't have on the premium plan that you absolutely need to have on the partner plan: co-teacher access, collaboration, shared folders, common assessments, data for your entire department or school, or if you go district-wide for your entire district. Collaboration, when I feel like an old man, back in my day, collaboration meant that I would walk down the hall to my peers and ask them questions like, hey, what are you doing today in the classroom to teach lesson XYZ? And first of all, I would never get them at the right time because they were teaching classes. They were always busy themselves. But if I did catch them at the right time, I would come back and say, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Help me build this lesson plan. What worksheets do you have? What projects, et cetera, et cetera. If they did make time for me and were in a good mood that day, they would help me and then give me their binder and say, here, go run it off a copy at the Xerox machine. That was collaboration back in the day. So Formative has changed the game here. Why bury yourself in papers, bug your colleagues, and go to the Xerox machine, which doesn't work half the time anyway, when you can just create a collaboration folder on Formative? So for example, create a school-wide math folder or a district-wide math folder, and then add your favorite people to it, your co-teacher, people that you're mentoring, who, by the way, the people that you're mentoring are always doing what? They're asking you for copies of your lesson plans and your worksheets and your assessments anyways. So just tell them, I'm giving you access to everything right now. You don't ever have to ask me another question. You can have it. It's right there. Go find it yourself. You can give access to your math coach, and they, of course, can add to these folders as well. And now you have one big, amazing math folder shared by everybody in your school. Simply not available on your premium subscription. You can also collaborate on projects or quizzes. For example, you divide up a 15-question quiz. Teacher 1, you do the first 5, you do the next 5, you do the third 5. Now a quiz that was supposed to take you 1 hour to create now only takes you divided by 3 because you're using teamwork. Amazing. Next, I want to talk about how to bring Formative to your school. And for this, I would like to ask Kirsten, who did this for her school. Hun, tell us how you were able to bring Formative to your school.
Yeah, so last year when we were teaching virtually with the pandemic, my principal conducted an observation during which I was using Formative. So he saw me, and at this point, actually, I was doing dual modality, where we have some students in the classroom, some students online, and it's really kind of hard to make your classes flow. It's really hard to have that classroom environment when half are online, half are in person. You're looking every which way, trying to answer questions in the chat, trying to address, behaviors in the classroom and things like that, especially when teaching math and things like graphing. Which Formative was just a game changer for that. I mean, teaching graphing online is impossible. Anyways, so he came in and he saw that I was using the Formative feature where you can see student responses and hide their names. So I was giving live feedback to my online and my in-person students at the same time. And he liked it so much that he asked me to share it with the faculty at the next staff meeting. So I made a clone code, and at the next staff meeting, when they start things off and they're like, all right, who wants to share, their little successes or anything that's going well, I just paste the clone code in the chat, and or you could assign it to guests and have that link go in the chat where people don't have to make accounts. And so I saw a few people going on there, which was also nice. What is the clone code? The clone code is where you click on the share button. There's 2 different options. You can either assign it to guests, or if you click the clone code, anybody else who has a Formative account can basically make a copy of that Formative and kind of edit and tweak and adjust. Good question. So I shared that clone code or the guest assigned Formative with my colleagues. I started to see them kind of clicking in and going through from the student perspective. After sharing it with the staff, we kind of we wanted to see what the interest would be for everybody else to start using that. So we had a few people sign up for some free accounts, and I kind of collaborated with them to see how it would be useful. And then talked to my principal. He actually, and I gotta be honest, my principal liked Formative so much, and he liked what I was doing with Formative so much to where he kind of, when he saw it in action, he wanted our whole school to have it. He wanted more people using this kind of technology. So I didn't really have to talk him into very much at all. He just kind of asked me all right, how do we get the whole school on board? All right, how do we get this for all the staff members, and then, collaborate and so on and so forth. So I think that answered your question.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of elaborate on a few of the points that come up in your story. Ideas on how to bring Formative to your school. Ask your admin team to observe you using Formative. Now, I'm starting with this one rather than just saying, march down to your principal's office and tell them, look, Formative is the latest and greatest education solution. You must buy it now, which all is true, by the way. It is late. It is great, and they should buy it now. But why don't you start with an observation? And as Kirsten was saying, she invited her principal to observe one of her lessons. And by the time she went, she made her request that, hey, we should buy this, or what do you think of this? He was already on board. Why? Because he saw it in action for himself. And I think that Formative is such a great platform that it really does sell itself. The power is there. You just got to show it to the right people. Build momentum by sharing formative with your colleagues. So if it's just you, hey, look at my lesson, that's powerful. But if it's you and everyone in your department, now your reasons to buy formative for your school are growing, multiplied by the number of people in your department. If you can share it to other departments as well, then it's going to grow even more. You're making a strong case for adoption. Every administrator's biggest fear when it comes to purchasing something is this: will my teachers actually use it? Or will it just be a waste of time and money? And will they be mad at me afterwards because they don't like it? And if you're building momentum by showing how everyone in your school already loves formative, it's an easy decision for them.
And if I could jump in here for a minute, if you're sharing formative and maybe your colleagues at first might say, oh, well, I'm already using XYZ, or maybe, for example, my school, we use the Big Ideas curriculum. So teachers were like, oh, well, I'm already using Big Ideas. We have the Big Ideas program. We have this, we have that curriculum. So what I started doing was embedding our curriculum. So I would just save like our curriculum as a PDF and then embed that in the formative to kind of bridge like what I was doing to what they were currently doing. And when they saw that overlap there with something that they were already comfortable with and already felt knowledgeable about, it kind of removed that resistance to try something new, or the resistance to change as well. And then if you'll click to the next slide. Another way of how you can bring formative to your school, if you are already leading professional development, for example, this year I led differentiation professional development at my school, just on a school-wide level. And you don't have to necessarily host an entire professional development just about formative, even though you may want to do that. And formative is great when you do get a school subscription or a district subscription. They're great about the formative. I know Katie's done a great job at my school, and we've had plenty of PDs that have been really successful. However, you don't have to just focus on, oh my gosh, okay, now I need to do a whole PD on formative. Not necessarily. So going back to the differentiation PD, this was something that my principal had asked me to do that had nothing to do with formative at all. And you can kind of embed formative and use formative and assign that to guests and use that option to where the teachers can kind of see the program from the student perspective, which is actually, refreshing and full as well, to gather their responses. So for example, I have 2 screenshots here. The first one, during our preschool week, when we came back in August, I did like a community builder that was a scavenger hunt. So we got in our teams and we went around the school looking for certain things. And that was all facilitated through the formative platform. So teachers started getting familiar with using formative. What does it look like? The tools and all that. And then on the second screenshot down there, you see the closure reflection. So the next day we did an exit ticket for our staff, right? So we always want our teachers using exit tickets and doing things like that, but it's like they never do that with our PDs. So we thought we wanted to differentiate our PDs. We wanted to offer adult learner choice. We wanted to do things like modeling that closure. So when delivering that PD, we're kind of like subtly embedding formative as well. And that actually gave teachers a lot of fresh ideas and made them kind of excited to learn a little bit about formative without having a full-blown PD.
Right on. Also, if you're just in the gathering interest stage, lead your professional development, and like Kirsten was saying, and then use formative to introduce what you're doing or take an exit ticket at the end. So the professional development isn't about formative per se, but it's using formative. Or you can go ahead and just say, hey, everyone, come to my professional development. I want to show you how formative works and how it's benefiting me in the classroom. Here's another idea. I know that approaching a principal or approaching an assistant superintendent of curriculum or approaching these district type level leaders can be scary sometimes for teachers. You don't see them every day. You don't know that this is their job, et cetera, et cetera. So you're like, I don't know. I'm nervous to bring it to them. What if they say no? Well, I would advise that technology coaches are a great go-between. Technology coaches know the director of technology. They know the director for instructional technology. They're in meetings with these people, and then they know you as well. So you can present Formative to a technology coach, and they'll work it up the chain. And then their assistant superintendent will call someone like me and have a district-wide type conversation. So they're a safe place, and are usually enthusiastic about using new types of technology. Lastly, I want to say that you can do this. You won't know until you ask. Our 5-year-old son, Zachary, told us on December 24th, the night before Christmas, he decided to tell us that he was asking Santa for a remote control car. And what was that other thing, hon? It was a remote control drone. He wanted a remote control drone, which was the first time that either of us had heard this. It's like 10 o'clock p.m. on Christmas Eve. How we can't deliver that. So, we just kind of did the polite parent thing and tried to make him forget about it or made excuses for Santa because we knew it wasn't coming. However, he has grandparents, and his grandparents love to buy him things that he doesn't need. So a remote control car is right up the alley. Well, his birthday is a couple weeks away. So while us, the decision makers, we didn't have the time or budget to give him these Christmas gifts, my grandparents did. So the timing changed, the budget changed, the decision makers changed. And so for him, it was when he asked, the original answer was no, but time changed, decision makers changed, budget changed, and he's going to get, he doesn't know this yet because his birthday, we'll see him next week. And that is when he will get his gift that he wanted. So I would encourage you as teachers, you don't know until you ask. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't be afraid of going to your school admin, your technology coaches, people in the district office, because they might be open to it. They might tell you no in the fall. They might tell you no in the summer, but they might tell you yes in the spring because timing changes everything. And things that they are not thinking about, like assessment, might be the number one priority on their mind by the time you go and approach them. So you can do it. And lastly, funding is available. Honey, you look like you were going to say something.
Yes, it was. Something else I just thought about, when we anticipate what our admin going to say, what are the decision makers going to make? If we think about, well, what are their responses going to be, right? We anticipate student responses. So let's anticipate what would our decision makers say. And something that I think a lot of decision makers would ask prior to moving forward with this purchase is whether or not, oh, good, I'm glad that worked. How is this different from the resources we already have? So I know one of the biggest things that I told my principal, this is different than, for example, we have Nearpod, we have the Big Ideas curriculum, we have XYZ, we have quizzes, we have GimKit, we have Kahoot, whatever other subscriptions you already have as a district or as a school. I, as a math teacher, said Formative is different because on every single question, I can see, where the students are working out. I can see on the multiple question types, I can always click show work. So I can give them that actual feedback, right? So when students are working online, especially with a subject like math, it's easy to just, type the answer into type the problem into Google and just find the answer. However, if you can show the work, you're coming up with that evidence of learning, that actual evidence of mastery. So for me, that was the biggest selling point and why I continue to use Formative essentially every single day in my classroom. So I think that's another big thing too. You want to be knowledgeable enough about the platform to be able to answer those kind of basic questions, like how is it different and like why would this be worth it? Because they might be asking that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the last point here is funding is available. Large amounts of ESSER funding, federal government is available. Your districts probably have the money to at least afford a pilot that will take them from now until the end of the school year. We're running specials right now to get people to try Formative to see if it's a good fit for them. If it is a good fit for them, then of course we can talk about what the next coming school year is like. But it's there. They just have to be explained the reasoning behind why Formative is so amazing. Do want to open up for a couple minutes of Q&A. If there are questions, we'll take them. Wanted to recap Kirsten's story. So when I started working at Formative, I picked Formative because I loved our product so much. I personally believed that our product really benefited educators and really made a difference in the classroom. So I paid for Kirsten's subscription out of pocket. So I bought her the premium subscription. Now, it was during that time that momentum started to build at her school, and she started making her pitches to her principal. And then, she finally made the ask and said, hey, do you feel like this is something the rest of our school can benefit from? And as you heard earlier, the principal was like, yeah, I want everyone to do this. For him, it was a no-brainer once he had already seen Formative in action, which was good news. I was happy for Kirsten getting more features. I was happy for all of her colleagues now getting Formative on the partner plan. I was happy that they would now get professional development. But I was also happy not to pay the $144 out of pocket. So again, the number one reason to bring Formative to your school and your district is so that you get the best plan possible with the best features possible, the best training possible, and it costs you $0 out of your pocket.
If I can jump in, I think there's a really important point it can be overwhelming, and that's something you mentioned, to kind of look at where you are maybe at an individual level and then trying to scale this up to a school or a district. And so I think you all brought up a really good point about bringing it to your team first, starting with your PLC or those group of people that you plan with on a regular basis. And if they have never signed up for Formative before, they get 14 days upgraded for free. So if they go to, you bring it up at your next PLC meeting, hey, I've been using this. This is a really good, it's worked for me in this, and this. What do you think about trying our next exit ticket in it? Get everybody signed up in your PLC, and you've got 2 weeks to get everybody to collaborate on something and go ahead and work together to put this out there for your team or for your students and see how it fits into your normal everyday cadence at school. So I think that may be a lower barrier of entry for a lot of folks to kind of start that conversation at a team level and then scale that up to a school level.
Right on, right on.
That's a great point, Katie. And I actually forgot to mention this in my story, but I kind of failed when I originally started introducing this to my math department at my school, because I just mentioned to them, oh, I'm using Formative and it's really great because XYZ. But I kind of failed to remember that people are very visual, and they want to see it in action. So when I started sharing screenshots of the auto grading with the students showing their work, or when I started sharing links and they were able to open it up on their own devices and kind of click through and go through, that was what really made a difference to getting people wanting to use Formative. And then when there were a big group of us, it made it easier with the rollout as well.
Awesome. So we have about 5 minutes left before we are going to wrap up today. So for the audience that's in attendance, do you have questions about how you can kind of go from where you are with Formative to then that next step of bringing more people on board? Are there thoughts of ways that you've used Formative really well that you'd like to see other people try to use? Go ahead and use the chat to drop any questions, comments, thoughts.
I have a thought that comes to mind. I don't know, I didn't hear this covered before, but are there any ways in which we could go over how Formative could help if, let's say, I have an admin's email that maybe I don't feel comfortable reaching out to for some reason, and there's a barrier with that. Is there a way that Formative can help with that process?
Absolutely. Matt, do you want to talk about what we're doing right now for our premium folks?
Yeah, I would love to. I'm afraid I misunderstood part of the question. Something about being afraid sharing your admin
So
email.
trying to like take that step to talk to an admin, but you know that this is something that could really benefit your school. So how can Formative help kind of be that bridge between the individual premium folks and the admin?
Right. Yeah, one of the things that we're currently doing, and all you have to do is you can sign up or just send us a message in the Formative chat. And Katie, you can elaborate on that part. You're an expert in that if need be. But we as Formative reps would love to have a conversation and to help teachers voice their desire to have Formative. So you can always request that, and then one of us will reach out, and then we can have a conversation with Formative present, your teacher present, and then your admin team, and then based on that conversation, figure out if there's indeed a fit, budget wise, desire, goals, etc., and then roll out, as I mentioned, a discounted pilot that we're currently running. Super affordable. Your admins really should take advantage of that offer. It's very doable. It comes at very little risk. We'll even train your people included in that professional development time. We'll roster them. We'll connect with your learning management system. It's a really great deal. Like I said, you got to ask for it though.
And the link that Matt is talking about is in your account. If you go into the question mark in your upper right-hand corner and then go down to contact Formative support, you can write an email there anytime, and it will come to our support team, who can then share it out to the appropriate members of our team to help you reach out to your school and district. And with that, if there are no other questions or comments, it looks like we are just about out of time. Matt, Kirsten, thank you so much for your time today. And I hope that everyone was able to kind of take away at least a little nugget of something that's going to be useful and helpful for them. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.